Thank you, Acting Deputy President. So here we are again, another year on, and not a lot has changed. Not enough if your life depended on it, not enough given the level of resources directed at it, in any language, on any measure, just not good enough. How is the gap to be closed when targets for the next generation are the ones that are not on track? In fact, they're going backwards. Justice, child development, children in our home care, out-of-home care, and health and wellbeing, including suicide. I'm going to focus on those 4 targets because they're the ones that are worsening. Justice is outcome 10. A read of the report outlines strategies that relate to when an individual is already in contact with the justice system rather than on what keeps them out. If you dropped into Alice Springs Courthouse today, like I did a little while ago, there would likely be more children in the courthouse than there is in childcare. If you actually look for yourself, this devastating reality is in plain sight. And if the Labor Party, the Greens and Senator David Pocock and the do-gooders got amongst it, they'd see it too. As a Shadow Minister, my focus will be on children being in school rather than on the streets, adults who can be at work and not on welfare, and not on an employment program that's not really employment. When we do that, the cells, the courtrooms and the correctional services will be less crowded with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Thriving children is outcome 4. Your cognitive ability and capacity to learn is directly impacted by your exposure to trauma, substance misuse and violence. When you have been roaming the streets all night to avoid the chaos at home, there's little hope of respite unless someone responsible and accountable steps in. Families keep it together when they get help when they need it, by people experienced to deliver it, and they get it when they need it. Replacing parental responsibility with government programs is not a sustainable long-term solution. It's more honest and meaningful when we stop counting enrolments and start counting attendance, and when we focus on outcomes, not outputs. Outcome 12 is children in out-of-home care. Children exposed to violence or who experience violence make up the greatest number of children now in the care of the state. When progress is made on the drivers that contribute to family violence, every headline number in reports just like this one and every life should change for the better. When you are more likely to be removed before the age of 1 and the system locks you in and your family out, then the challenge for recovery and healing is so much harder. For the children, for the families, for the taxpayer, more focus on the work to reunite families where it is safe to do so must be where much of the work is done, because that's better for everyone. On outcome 14, suicide and mental health, none of these outcomes can be addressed in isolation because the ultimate demonstration of failure is when an individual loses all hope. The service delivery silos, competition for resources, inaction on calling out those services who are not delivering as they should just adds to the scale of harm. Stop shying away from talk about sexual abuse because that only protects perpetrators and does nothing to help survivors break their silence. Want to close the gap? Don't close your mind from making the tough decisions. When Labor and the Greens do things that make them feel good, rather than it doing good, people get hurt. Things don't change and gaps don't close. The foundation of this government's Close the Gap report is the announcement of 3,000 so-called real jobs and $700 million. Another long-promised announcement complete with a slogan, real jobs, proper wages and decent conditions, and in true Labor style, an absence of detail and no real modelling. The key to improving lives is addressing domestic and family violence, and that is better for everyone, not just Indigenous Australians. The target of reducing all forms of violence by 50% by 2031 simply won't be achieved without the reintroduction of the cashless debit card, because removing it has caused chaos. The statistics will tell you the levels of violence have gone up. The Close the Gap report is all about strategy, statistics and statements. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people want the same things as everyone else, and often that is forgotten in this debate. It is the most marginalised within this cohort that needs our greatest attention and must remain our focus. Without greater accountability across all governments and service providers, there won't be the scale of change that is needed, and it starts with examining and auditing what is bleedingly and painfully obvious. Thank you.